68 Ava Road, Finleyville, PA.
Smile, you're on camera.
I have a couple things. First, for the serums, I pay them, like, you know how you can get a subscription from them
Yes.
so that you don't get an ambulance bill? What, if we could switch, what happens to my subscription? Because, I mean, I guess I don't.
I can answer that question because I asked that. They will still come and service you,
Okay,
despite what this board is doing.
okay. I just wondered because, I mean, that's something to think about. Okay,
not
the
funny,
second
Dave.
thing that I wanted to say is, I missed last meeting, and I know you guys discussed the lobes, Red Road. Well, Sean, I want you to be here.
I promise you, I'll be listening. I just want to grab something.
Okay, and about the flooding. So I went back to the hearing that we had for the McIntosh compressor station and looked at the conclusions of, findings of facts, conclusions of law. And that was addressed. And there was supposed to be no water into the creek. And you can see the channel that they have made that puts water right into the creek. And it's in there, it's in the transcripts. I mean, people ask questions about, because we didn't want the flooding downstream. And everything was supposed to go into the stormwater, that retention pond. So it is in there. And then last Thursday I came down and to look at the McIntosh compressor station, what they submitted. And what they submitted to the township shows this culvert. But when they submitted their ESG permit to the DP, it did not show the culvert. And that's that culvert you can see down off Lobes Run, which clearly a culvert is for water to come through. So I know Terry said that when they were up, you were up there, that you guys talked about that, because that was not in the DEP permit. So they gave the township one thing, and then the DEP something else. So, we shouldn't be flooding. Everything should have went, it's right in the transcripts, findings of facts, no water to the creek. So, that's the law. So, any comments?
I mean, I'm typically here on Wednesdays and Fridays. If you have any point during like normal business hours, come down. I'd be happy to look through the documents with you to understand exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
But there was always a channel there, and I don't know how they could have permitted anything to remove the channel as far as a stream channel.
That's
They
what
put it in.
I'm going to try to get, when I looked at the Google map that they had when they submitted their permit, there was no channel that I could see. But I'm trying to get a historical Google map because there was no channel down
Yeah,
there.
and I have all that on my computer. We could sit down and look at
Okay.
historical imagery
Yes.
today, also what they submitted as far as their existing conditions with topography.
Yeah, but it was
And as
that,
far as a retention pond, I mean, those are designed to let water off.
it
doesn't
does
make
have,
any-
I did see where it said emergency overflow.
Slowly.
But like I said, in here, there was no, that channel, we didn't have flooding before that compressor station. That's my point, and it was addressed in the meeting. People specifically asked about flooding, and all stormwater runoff was to go into the retention pond. Nothing was supposed to go down the hill into the creek.
So I can tell you that the stormwater that lands on their compressor station goes into their retention pond. The stormwater
What's
that lands
coming-
outside the compressor station is gonna flow the way it flowed before they built a compressor station.
But it didn't flood. That's what I'm trying to say. Just living there, I've lived there for 20 years, that channel was not there. And that was at the hearing, that was a big part of the hearing, is that people, we knew we didn't want flooding. And that was the thing. They were like, oh no, that there was not gonna be, they didn't want any of the water to go downstream because they knew what would happen. So, I'll be glad to show you what I looked at in the book and everything. I mean, I'll be glad to meet with you, we can go over it, but like that culvert, I mean, I don't know if they have a roadway over there and they put a culvert underneath it.
I'm not
'Cause
certain what culvert you're talking about, so I do think meeting together would be helpful, but.
Exactly,
I mean,
because,
I don't know how water could flow anyway other than downhill and.
well,
Yeah,
of
like you
course
said,
it's gonna
it
flood
hasn't
downhill.
flooded that much in 20 years, but
Well-
we experienced a 50-year storm, so there's just, yeah.
But we made it through Hurricane Ivan, and that was pretty bad. I mean, that flooded a lot of areas, and it did not flood down there. So, and that was, I mean, that was a historical flooding event. So, I mean, there's something, and like I said, I saw that on the one thing they submitted to us, but I didn't see it on the, permit to the DEP. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to sit down with you and just take a look at everything.
Yeah.
Understand all your concerns and see what makes sense or what was the township missing that DEP got, I think that'd be great.
yeah, or what did we get that the DEP didn't get when they submitted their permit? Because, I mean, whenever we had that hearing too, they had not got that permit yet. They did not apply for that permit. So, that permit came after the hearing for the compressor station. So I don't trust what they're doing. And I mean, and like I said, we never had water runoff, you know, in that area like we do now. And we never had flooding. Like, I know Jacob's here, his yard, it never flooded like that. And even the people that he bought the house off came and said, oh my God, it never did that. And this was the start of it. And that was why we addressed flooding issues at that hearing. It was all stormwater runoff. Mr. Sklar even asked that question. It's in the transcripts. All stormwater runoff is to go into the pond. So if they made another channel where that culvert is going down, that's not going into that pond, then they should have made that pond bigger to catch that stormwater runoff.
Has there been any expansion, I'm sorry, has there been any expansion to that site or anything since that it was initially?
I have to inquire about that because if it was only for 4, there's something on the DEP website that says now 6 micro turbines, or I think it is, or generators, and it was only for 4. But I gotta talk to the DEP about that because, just to make sure that it's right, because they are not allowed any expansion without another conditional use. They aren't allowed to do anything. And I think they did add some buildings up there after the fact, but they never came back. Did they ever get a permit to do any of that?
I know that there's one newer building that has its own stormwater retention grading, but as far as I know, I believe there's a building permit that went through for it. I don't know.
But if that was anything extra would have had to come through conditional use, I would think. Not just the building permit.
That was before my time, but there was an old building there next to that site. I believe Mr. Lacy also contacted the township and asked about there was an activity up there. We reached out to EQM regarding that, and they were dealing with removing or shutting down that old one.
No,
There was no expansion. That's just what, again, we reiterated at that time, if they were doing any work at the actual site or any expansion, we would have a right to review that, and they indicated not. Whether they lied or not, I can't tell you.
Can I clarify what I asked you? There's permits to double the size of that, and I just asked if there would be a conditional use when that happens. They're getting the permits. It's on the I had to have somebody look at them for me because I can't read that stuff. It's somebody that knows about it, and they're doubling it.
We reached out to them to let them know that, and they indicated the only thing they were doing up there was not related to the expansion. That's the only stuff.
What expansion?
You just said that there was permits to expand.
There's permits, but I didn't say they did it. I'm asking.
I'm saying, but you emailed the township.
I did.
Said you asked about activities up there. When I reached out to them, they indicated there was no expansion activities. I was just trying to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, was just saying, someone else asked questions about it, it prompted us to ask it again, so that's.
Yeah.
the extent.
Yeah, I think I will follow up with Sean one day. I'll try to get off work or something, or get off work early. You're here Wednesdays and Fridays? To what time?
I could stay whatever time is.
I get off at 3.
Yeah, after 3 until we look at everything and get it all addressed.
Yeah, because I'd like to know from like what building they added, you know, because they shouldn't have added anything without going through the proper channels.
Mike, if there's a conditional use for a compressor station, is a building considered an expansion of a compressor station?
I'd have to look at that and see what they did.
Depends on what's in it. Depends on what
To
they
be honest with you, I can't answer that.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I would think that, yeah, I mean, if it's something that changes from their original.
The legal
submission.
definition of expansion from a zoning standpoint might be different than just a simple, that's what I'm saying, I'd have to look at that and look to see what it's doing. So, there's accessory uses and things like that, that would be a natural, under the law, that might trigger a natural expansion, not actually trigger to have to come back for a full-on hearing. I don't know.
Yeah, and like I said, yeah, for that culvert and everything, I mean, that's where the water's coming. I don't know what's draining down there. I mean, I've never been up on there and taken a tour or anything. I'd love to go. So, but I know that that was a big part of the conditions that no stormwater runoff into the creek
Yeah, so
to prevent flooding.
when you go up into the station on top of the hill and then back a bit, there's a gravel area where their compressor station's at. And that gravel area drains to their pond. So everything else that's not a part of that gravel area, it's gonna go where it went before there was.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if they added that culvert and that's directing water down into the creek, that wasn't part of their ESG permit.
Yeah, I'll sit down with you and take a look.
Yeah,
The only
and
thing
then I can show
say-
you what I'm looking at, and then, yeah, we can discuss it, because, I mean, no stormwater runoff into the creek means no stormwater. And if that was added, and they didn't permit it, well, then we got a problem. So, that's my,
Sean, you'll touch base via email, the results of everything?
I have her contact still.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
oh,
perfect.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I can email.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Spar?
Yes.